Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Arna Diaz Show. Today's show, the slap heard around the world. Bruce Willis is retiring from acting. E3 is canceled for the year. And a deleted scene of the Joker from the new Batman movie was released by the film's director. Our first story today, I'm not going to bury the lead. This is a story that everyone has heard about throughout the planet, and I'm sure many of you are tired of hearing about it. But seeing as how I haven't made a video in a little while, it's appropriate for me to at least say something. At this year's Oscars, Will Smith walked up on stage and physically assaulted Chris Rock after he said a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith. Now, obviously, I don't know Chris Rock, and I don't know what he was thinking. But I'll say this. If I was performing at an event that I was hired to do, and someone came up on stage and slapped me after I told a joke about their wife, I would expect them to be ejected, and I would 100% be filing charges. Now, if that person was my friend or my coworker, I would probably think twice. Just honestly saying, I probably would. Now, I don't know how well Chris Rock and Will Smith know each other now, but I know for a fact they have definitely, at the very least, have worked together. And I can't imagine the decision that Chris Rock had to make in the moment. Now, because of reports, we do know that Chris Rock decided not to press charges, even though the LAPD was fully prepared to arrest Will that night. Additionally, it has come out that the Academy asked for him to leave, but the producers of the show that evening asked that he stay. Despite that, Will also refused to leave when the Academy asked him to leave. I do believe that this was a heinous act and deserves repercussions. We live in a civilized world, well, mostly, and there are rules that we all must follow so that we can all live together. Now, despite the Academy not yet applying any pressure on Will, he has decided to step down from the Academy. What does that mean? Well, it means he will no longer be able to vote for any more Academy Awards. He will no longer receive any screeners, and of course, he will be out of consideration for any future awards. And broadly speaking, there are a lot more consequences that we now know of for Will. Many of the projects that he was a producer on and starring in have been placed on pause. Now, I do believe that Will Smith will eventually make and star in movies again. As a society, we have a very short-term memory, and we tend to not only forget about, but we tend to forgive. Especially when someone is of note or a professional athlete. Looking at you, NFL. And this incident kind of puts a giant light on something that as a society we've all kind of been seeing all at once in the last couple of years. There are a double standard for people if they are rich, powerful, or famous than those of us who don't live in the limelight. And this incident kind of magnifies a lot of that in our society. I hope Will Smith gets the help he needs, and I hope that he learns to control his emotions a bit better in these kinds of situations. I like Will Smith. I don't think it's difficult for people to see why. For most of his career, he's been a very likable guy, and for all intents and purposes, and for all reports, he has been that. Pretty nice guy, well-rounded all the way around. And before this, he almost had the perfect life. A family, successful, and of course, rich. But consequences need to be applied. And in a lot of ways, they already have been applied to him. I don't know if the society at large demands more, and I honestly don't know if I'm satisfied with what has happened to him. But we live in a civilized world, and these things can't stand. So again, whatever happens, I at the very least hope that Will Smith gets the help he needs. Now, another bit of news. A legend, a monumental figure in the world of movies, is stepping away from acting. On the Instagram page of Bruce Willis's oldest daughter, she posted that Bruce Willis will be stepping away from acting in light of an aphasia diagnosis. Now, aphasia is a disease that affects the memory and cognitive functions of your brain. It is usually caused from a traumatic incident. We currently do not know what caused this for Bruce Willis. Now, there are reports that Bruce Willis has 100% been hurt on movie sets. Notably, he actually has lost a significant amount of hearing in one of his ears from an incident that occurred in the very first Die Hard movie. Now, this news does come in the light of recent reports of Bruce Willis starring and making several very low-budget films in the last 2 to 3 years. Just really quick movies with really super low budgets. And many YouTubers and other outlets have reported on just the subpar quality of these movies and the fact that Bruce Willis not only appears to not be really into making the movies, and also the fact that he appears to be using an earpiece so that he can hear someone telling him lines during production. And he's made so many of them that the Razzies this year created an entire category completely devoted to Bruce Willis movies. Now, in the light of this recent diagnosis announcement, the Razzies rightfully took away that category and are no longer going to be showing that during the Razzie Awards. Before this diagnosis, it was reported there was a possibility that Bruce Willis was suffering from some sort of cognitive disease. In these reports, it also detailed certain incidents that happened on set, such as the fact that Bruce Willis apparently fired a prop gun improperly in 2 separate occasions on the same movie set. And also, after contracts were signed for a movie, directors and writers of one of the movies were asked to cut down Bruce Willis's role in the movie to almost 5 or so pages. I have enjoyed Bruce Willis movies my entire life. I believe Die Hard with a Vengeance is probably one of the best action movies ever made. And The Fifth Element is just a joy to watch. That movie holds up so well. And I really hope that Bruce Willis finds the peace that he needs in his retirement and gets all the help that he needs and deserves. And at the same time, I do think it was inappropriate for him to be making so many movies, especially because of how dangerous it could have been for him to be in those movies. So retirement obviously does seem to be appropriate here. Now, this other story kind of hits a little close to my heart. This year's E3 was canceled. And this comes after the fact that last year's E3, there was actually an online event that was held. It was announced by the Entertainment Software Association, the association that puts on E3. Quote, E3 will return in 2023 with a reinvigorated showcase that celebrates new and exciting video games and industry innovations. We will devote our energy and resources to delivering a re-innovated physical and digital E3 experience next summer. Whether enjoyed from the show floor or your favorite devices, the 2023 showcase will bring the community, media, and industry back together in an all-new format and interactive experience. Now, there was widespread speculation that this may actually not just, in fact, be a cancellation of this year's show, but also possibly the end of E3. I remember fondly when I first found out about E3 when I was a really small kid. I think it was before I was even a teenager when I was first on the internet, just going through forums and websites such as GameSpot and GameTrailers.com and just gaming news. And I heard about E3. And I remember anytime E3 happened that I would be glued to all of these websites just to find the new reports and pictures of the show floor and the new video games. And it would be where all of the big video game companies would announce their new consoles and new video games for the year. And it was just a really exciting thing that I looked forward to every year before summer started. And, you know, to me, it is very nostalgic. And I'm kind of saddened by the fact that it may go away for sure. But at the same time, this announcement kind of comes after years of decline of the event. COVID notwithstanding, before this cancellation and last year's online event, E3 has been scaling down, and many of the software developers and the big video game manufacturers have been stepping away from E3 and doing their own showcases separate from the show. So I think there is a lot of credence to the idea that E3 may actually be over and they may not be coming back next year. There's been speculation that they may have done this just to try to reap the benefits of some sort of insurance policy. I don't know. And only time will tell if E3 will come back. I hope it does in some form. It is one of those mecca events like Comic-Con. Hopefully one day I can go, be on the show floor, and just experience the magnitude of the video game industry firsthand. Now for my last story. Matt Reeves, the director of The Batman, 2 weeks ago released on his Twitter page a clip, a deleted scene from The Batman appearing to show off his Joker. Played by Barry Keoghan, the Joker in the scene is mostly kept in the bokeh, in the blur of the image, not being able to see his face, but it is apparent that he does have the facial scars made popular by the Heath Ledger Joker from The Dark Knight. And spoiler here for the scene. The scene depicts Batman going into Arkham and seeking advice about the Riddler from the Joker. And within the scene, the Joker seems to have a very first-hand knowledge about the way that this psychopath works and is able to give Batman some sort of insight into his psyche. It's really quite good. And the portrayal of the Joker is good. And it's conniving, and he belittles Batman in the most sinister way. It's fun as well. And I can also see why it was deleted from the movie. Mild spoilers for the Batman and the scene itself. Throughout the movie, Batman does utilize some detective tactics to kind of figure out what's going on with this Riddler character. And this scene depicting the Batman going into Arkham and seeking advice from a prisoner. And when he hands him just a single file folder with just a few pictures and files, the Joker kind of is able to just figure out the psyche of the Riddler by just looking down and reading a few pieces of paper. And that I can see would really hinder the believability that Batman can really figure this out on his own. That said, there really hasn't been any reports on why Matt Reeves released the scene. The only thing that I can kind of come up with is the fact that the Batman has done well and has been reviewed pretty positively. So one would suspect that Warner Brothers is pushing forward with a possible sequel, and Matt Reeves is going to bring the Joker into the sequel, and he wanted to give people a taste of what his version of the character would be. It is up all over the place. You can find it. Just look for it. Joker scene in the Batman. It's everywhere. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I am Arnie Diaz89 on all social media platforms. Thank you.